In the corridors of power, the budget has been front and centre this week. But away from its glare, another issue has surfaced. Labor has used the final days of this parliament to try to change federal environment laws aimed at an industry a world away from Canberra.
This bill would address a critical problem in our current laws, a problem that's playing out right now in a small community in Tasmania.
Macquarie Harbour is a huge, inland harbour. It's the mouth of the Gordon and Franklin rivers and really the heart of the West Coast in many ways.
In 2012, under the then Labor government, Federal Environment Minister Tony Burke approved the expansion of salmon farming in Macquarie Harbour. He determined it didn't need full federal environmental assessment as long as it had state-based oversight. The industry says 120 people work full-time on the harbour's salmon farms, but the future of fish farming in Macquarie Harbour has been uncertain since 2023, when concerns were raised about the endangered Maugean skate. Jason Semmons and David Marino have been monitoring the fish for over a decade and lead a captive breeding program.
It's a very unique animal in that it has a very limited distribution. My research has shown that it's probably only found in Macquarie Harbour.
In 2023, they found the skate population had almost halved over 7 years.
New skate were not coming into the population, and the ones that were there were getting older. So all of that combined provided some pretty strong evidence to suggest that there had been an important decline in the population.
Environment-focused groups asked Minister Tanya Plibersek to rethink the 2012 decision that allowed expanded salmon farming, prompting a formal reconsideration process. But the latest report from the team last month found an upward trend. The Maugean skate had returned to levels not seen for a decade.
Really what we want to see now is not only these isolated good years, but that the population gets to a point where they have the resilience to handle those potential bad years and still not be affected by them.
Macquarie Harbour is in the electorate of Braddon, a seat Labor wants to win from the retiring Liberal member. The ultra-marginal seat of Lyons is right next door.
The trade-off for Labor is one that it's been grappling with for over 40 years, going right back to Whitlam, and that how does it balance support for industries, traditional blue-collar jobs, jobs in regional Australia, against the need to attract support from environmentalists and voters in inner cities.
In February, with pressure mounting and an election looming, the Prime Minister wrote to the salmon industry promising fish farming would continue in Macquarie Harbour.
Science tells us about the Maugean skate. I want jobs, but I also want sustainability. That's what we're delivering here.
At the same time, Labor's committed almost $40 million of funding for oxygenation of the harbour and the skate captive breeding program. Now, in the final sitting days of this term, the government has brought in a bill to protect salmon farming in the harbour and effectively quash Minister Plibersek's review.
Have you sold out your environment credentials for a rotten, stinking extinction salmon? Extinction salmon.
Senator Hanson-Young removed the prop from the chamber.
The government have finally, after 18 months of being badgered by us and by industry, seen sense in resolving this prior to an election, because it is a risk, not just to salmon farming, but also to the forestry industry and a range of others across the country.
The new laws would mean that if, like Macquarie Harbour, a project didn't need full federal environmental assessment when it was originally approved, then the minister will no longer be able to review that decision. It would apply in cases where the project has state or territory oversight and has been underway for at least 5 years.
What we're doing with this amendment to the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act is a very specific amendment that will apply in very limited circumstances to reconsiderations.
The scope of this legislation is far broader than just Tasmanian salmon farming corporations, and it could indeed prevent people from asking for reconsideration for a range of projects, including fossil fuel projects. So this is going to cut out the community.
Labor came into government promising to overhaul Australia's environment laws and create a federal Environment Protection Authority.
They've not only broken that promise by failing to improve environment laws, they're now actively weakening our already pathetically weak environment protections.
Labor has said it simply didn't have the numbers to pass environmental legislation sooner, but would reform laws if re-elected.
Our political editor, Laura Tingle, joins me now. Laura, just take us straight to the political implications of this.
The political implications have changed a lot, Sarah, since we saw the Prime Minister arriving down in Strahan in December. Then it was just about the Maugean skate and him saying that he was going to rescue that. In the last couple of weeks, we've seen these fat globules from salmon washing up on beaches.
Truly revolting.
Truly revolting. Claims that diseased fish are making its way into supermarkets and, you know, a massive bacteria outbreak. All of those things have added to the alarm about this industry in Tasmania, which is why you see Jackie Lambie now really ramping up her language about it. Both the major parties have basically backed this legislation. Now, it's not going to be debated till after 10 o'clock tonight, along with other legislation. It's going to be an all-nighter, I'd say. The last I heard, there was still some toing and froing between Labor and the Coalition about exactly what that would be. But I think this issue has really erupted on a number of levels. There's unhappiness in the Labor caucus. Labor is now accused of going backwards on salmon, on environmental laws as a result of this. There is a lot of confusion about the way they've gone about this because the path they've chosen for legislative change basically is about getting reviews of environmental decisions. And opponents of the law point out that actually it's industry that is often the party that will seek a review of the law. So industry isn't all that happy about that too, and there are concerns it will have wider spread implications than just the salmon industry.
Now, this isn't the first environmental row we've seen inside the Labor Party. What does this do for Anthony Albanese's environmental credentials as we're so close to an election?
It's no good for them at all. And in fact, what's happened is environmental groups, even the more conservative environmental groups, are completely, as The Guardian said, apoplectic about this. They've stopped campaigning in some seats against Peter Dutton and his nuclear policy, and they're now campaigning against Labor and the salmon policy because it is seen as being a backward step on the environment, when you would remember that Labor came in saying we are going to overhaul the laws, we're going to make them better, we're going to make it work better. It's hitting Tanya Plibersek, his Environment Minister, in her own seat, even though she's been overruled on this. So I think it's really messy and people are a little bit mystified, frankly, about why the Prime Minister has pursued this so hard.
And just briefly, is there some yield for him on the other side in marginal seats in Tasmania, or is there a rationale here?
Well, the argument is that this will help him win Braddon from the Liberals, but over the other side of the island, Peter George, the Independent, is running against a Labor frontbencher, Julie Collins, and he's running very hard on the salmon issue. So there's a really good prospect that they may actually lose that seat as a result of this.
Laura, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Sarah.